Hey everybody, thank you so much for attending this mini lecture. I'm excited to talk with you today about my 10 tips that will help you create an effective Instagram marketing strategy for 2019. So first off, Happy New Year. Secondly, I hope these tips will help you get started on the right foot this year. And thirdly, I want to point out where you can find me on the gram at quinn.tempest. You're going to find a lot of colorful photos there, but mainly I want to share that. So if you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, you can feel free to DM me through my profile there. So let's get started. And first, before getting into those top 10 tips, I want to share with you what happened in 2018. And it's actually a pretty big deal. So first off, Instagram became a unicorn. Yay, we love unicorns. They hit the 1 billion user mark in June of this year. And I can only imagine what it is at the end of 2018, beginning of 2019 when you're probably watching this. The second crazy number is that half of that billion, 500 million, are on the platform every single day. And they're not just posting selfies, they're not just posting photos of their breakfast, even though I did that earlier. They're actually actively engaging with brands every single day. So there's still huge opportunities for businesses on Instagram, and it's only going to grow exponentially from here. The last number, which is still crazier, is that 400 million people are using stories daily. And if I didn't mention, these all came out in June of this year. I'm filming this at the very end of the year in 2018. So I can only imagine that these numbers have grown and will continue to grow exponentially over the first part of 2019. We're going to come back to the power of stories a little later. And first, one more thing before we hop into my tips, because I think this is extremely important. This is my definition of Instagram marketing. Even though this is going to be a mini lecture, I want to make sure that you and I are both under the same understanding for at least the next 15 minutes or so. So I'm going to read this to you. Instagram is a curated visual experience of your brand that is A, creatively presented, and B, strategically planned in order to, listen to this, create and build a relationship with your audience. Instagram is one of the most powerful platforms out there to develop an authentic relationship with your audience. Turn those audience members into followers, into fans, and hopefully build that relationship to a point where they're loyal customers and clients for years to come. But it all comes down to balancing the art, the visual side of things with the strategic understanding of how the whole system of Instagram works, because it's a kind of a crazy, wild, and wacky place. So I just want you to keep that in mind while I go through my 10 tips, because I think this is a really important thing to remember. So let's start with number 1. You're gonna have to master Instagram stories quickly. As you saw, we hit 400 million users on stories as of 6-7 months ago, and stories have become the place to be. It's the place to see past the barriers of a curated feed right into the heart of a business and really understand what makes them tick. People like it because it's authentic, it's spontaneous, it's not as planned out, although there can definitely be planned out stories. And it just gives a really good glimpse into the universe of businesses. You can use them if you're a solopreneur like me, small business, corporate. The whole scale works for Instagram stories. So if you're not using this consistently, I highly, highly recommend testing it out, working out the kinks, and seeing what your audience resonates with on stories. We're starting to see a lot of engagement drop on the rest of the platform. So if you're not on stories, you're going to see your engagement drop all over the place. But if you do develop stories, you're going to see a real boost in that engagement that is really key to the platform. So here are a couple tips when it comes to stories. Create engagement. Engagement is the currency of Instagram. So like in the screenshot here, use all the features that are available to you on the platform. You've got polls, you've got music, you've got questions. Now there's even a countdown that was just released. And you can see just by how many features Instagram added this year that they're really highly valuing story engagement. So get good at using the toolbox that they've built for you to tell your brand story through video, through photos, through my favorite boomerangs, hyperlapses, all the tools that they've built for you to tell your story. Use them. And also think about repurposing. I tend to do this a lot on my own personal account where I take a photo that was on my feed. And this is actually an example here. I had a blog post go live about the top 10 tools I use for my business to run it as a solopreneur. And I took 5 of those tools that I talked about in my feed post and I repurposed those as stories. I can tell you I got way more engagement on my stories than I did on my feed. But remember, the feed is still important because that can reach new people, whereas the stories, for the most part, are about engaging with your existing audience. Also repurpose the other way. So I said take your feed post and repurpose it in your stories. Also take posts from your stories and point people to go back to leave a comment on your feed. You want to think about having an ecosystem of content between your feed and your stories to keep people moving around and engaging with your brand in different ways. Number 2, we've already talked about engagement, but it's seriously important. Engagement is the currency of Instagram. It's even how the algorithm works. Have you ever seen when you publish a post and one of them gets a lot more engagement quickly, and then all of a sudden you see even more of an onslaught of engagement later? That's because the more engagement, likes, and comments you have on your feed post in the first 30 minutes or an hour will kind of cue the algorithm that it's a valuable post and it will show it to more of your audience. So you have to really focus on developing content that really creates that engagement from the beginning. And that's both in your feed as well as your stories. We already talked about those interactivity things in your stories, but in your feed, ask questions, get people to leave a comment, ask them to do something. The more engagement you can create, the more of a life cycle and a longer life cycle that post will see. But also my caveat here is manage your expectations when it comes to organic engagement in 2019. It's not like it was before, even a couple months ago. It's not like it was when the feed was chronological. You can't expect thousands and thousands of likes within a minute unless you have millions of followers, which I don't. But you have to really manage your expectations because the algorithm has changed so much that it's harder to get that engagement. And I also have found that a lot of people are a little, they're moving towards stories, honestly, and they're just not engaging as much on the feed. So manage your expectations, but keep looking for opportunities to build that engagement. One way to do that is to create content diversity. So if you look at your feed right now for your business, are you only posting images? Are you only posting videos? How can you tell your brand story in different formats and different styles? So maybe you have a product, you could take product or brand photos, but how does that product impact someone's life? Maybe a lifestyle shot. If you're not in the product business, what is the impact that you make in terms of a service? Think about user-generated content, give people behind the scenes glimpse. And like I mentioned before, use all the formats that are available to you. Instagram has made it really easy for you to become an awesome content creator. So get diverse, look for engagement opportunities, and always ask your audience to do something. Number 3, this is huge. I think for so long, Instagram has kind of felt like the Wild West, and now it's really becoming a hugely effective marketing channel for so many businesses. So like any other marketing platform out there, you really need to understand what's working, what's not working, and how those data points can help you make decisions to get a better ROI out of your efforts. So dive deep into your analytics. I would say absolutely look on your actual app for Instagram. You can get some good analytics there if you're on a business account, which anyone watching this for any business reason should have a business account on Instagram. By the way, Instagram really debunked that myth that said, oh, they value Instagram or personal ones versus business ones more. That's not true. Get a business account if you're a business. So you can use the business Instagram insights or you can look at third-party tools that go into Instagram insights and analytics a little bit deeper than the native app does. The best point of data that you want to look at is your time to post. Now, I mentioned earlier that the more engagement you get quicker means that it will cue the algorithm to show it to more people, and that has a longer lifespan for your content. But the key thing there is to get the most engagement, to get the people, to get your followers and non-followers engaging with your posts, you need to do it at the right time when most of your audience is hanging out on the platform. If you don't know what that time is, like I literally know mine is Tuesdays at 8 a.m. Actually, 8 a.m. across the board is really good for me. That doesn't mean it's good for your business. So you really need to test. Times are going to vary across all brands and niches. The one constant is to look at your Instagram insights and see where most of your audience lives geographically. So I'm in the United States, so most of my audience is actually the Pacific time zone. So usually when I say 8 a.m., that means 8 a.m. Pacific, because my audience is probably 40% over there. And so I want to tailor my time to meet those people when they're on the platform to get the most engagement as I can. If your audience is Eastern, if it's global, you really need to dive into that. And of course, the last little tip here is just to test. Throw some clay at the wall, see what sticks, see what your best time to post is based on how much engagement you end up getting. This is extremely important in 2019. Now, the web designer in me, and I don't even know if I mentioned what I do digital marketing strategy and graphic design, as well as Instagram consulting and speaking. But since I am a nerdy graphic designer, number 4 is hugely important for me, and a missing link I see still in 2018 moving into 2019. And that is brands that do not have a documented visual strategy. Instagram is a visual platform, so you need to make an impression. And the reason that is, which this stat just stuns me every time, is that 2/3 of profile visits that come to your Instagram profile, those people don't follow you yet. So you have to make that instantaneous impression that makes a difference in their mind, that says to them, oh, this brand has something I want to follow. This entrepreneur, this small business owner relates to what I'm interested in, and I can tell within 1 second what that is with a visual strategy. So I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm going to give you a couple tips. And it really comes down to 3 questions. Before you think about what filter should we use, what style should we have, what color palette should we do, you really want to think deeper. So I want you to think about 3 questions and the intersection of those. So the first one is this: what does your brand stand for? So what is that mission, that deeper purpose behind your brand? Number 2, what does your audience care about? What are they interested in? What are they going to resonate with? And lastly, what makes you unique? What makes you stand out from your competitor or other people or brands within your niche? And really at the intersection of those 3 questions, that's where you can start translating the answers into a visual look and feel. I'll give you a few examples of, actually 3 examples of different brands who have come up with different answers to those questions. So the first one here is Vitruvi. They are an essential oil company, and I actually love their profile bio. It says, essential oils that elevate simple moments. That's very clean, it's very simple, it's very inspiring, and you can almost see that those words threaded throughout their whole look and feel. They have a good diversity as well, so you can see they have some product shots, they have some lifestyle shots of someone who would love this type of product, and it feels very muted and very calm. On the other hand, Yes to Carrots is a product company as well. They do facial masks, and whereas I wouldn't normally say do all product shots, they do it in a really great way where it's creative, it's engaging, it's fun, and you never know what you're going to get. The third example is from a B2B business. So if you thought you couldn't be on Instagram as a B2B business, well, you're wrong. But this is Shopify. So they help power a lot of businesses, e-commerce businesses on the web. And they've really approached their Instagram by answering the question, really, what does our audience care about? And their audience cares about learning how to make a better store online to sell more products. So their visual strategy is infographics, quotes, helpful tips, statistics, all those things that will help their audience do what they're looking for. So as you can see, all these visual strategies are very different because the answers to those deep-rooted questions are unique to their brand. So kind of piggybacking off of number 4, we want to go into number 5. So once you document that visual strategy, then you need to perfect your look and you need to stick to it. And I'm so surprised by brands who don't do this. They obviously have branding, they have a logo, they have colors, and then you look at their feed and it's just a hot mess. Nothing looks like it came from that company. And that's really where you need to flip your mindset. Every photo you post on your feed, every story you produce should feel like it's coming from your brand. And you need to really stick to that. So let me give you a couple tips on how to perfect your look. Now, if you have a designer in-house or if you work with someone like me, a consultant, they can probably help you with this. But if you have a smaller team and you need to figure this out on your own, then I highly recommend checking out some of these tools that I have on the screen. These are some photo editing, video editing tools. And also remember to stay to the end of this because I have a checklist that has 21 more tools that I didn't have time to talk about in this mini lecture. So the things that you can think about with perfecting your look. What's your color palette? Maybe think about what your branding is and how you can extend that. What's the look, the feel, the vibe? What are those adjectives that describe your aesthetic? What's your editing style? Do you use specific filters? How do you place both white space as well as photos next to one another so that you have a cohesive grid? These are all things to think about, and you definitely want to work with someone who can translate those answers to those 3 important questions into something that's visual, into something that is appealing. So in 2019, I want you to think about doing a makeover. If you come to a profile like this is a client of mine actually who I did a makeover on her grid. She's a yoga teacher, nutritionist. And when you come to her grid or you came to her grid before, you kind of were like confused. You don't initially know what she does. You see photos of dogs, some yoga, some hiking. You're not really clear on her message. So I took her branding. It was very beautiful, light blues and greens, and we converted that into a visual strategy. So this is what it looked like. I think it's much better. It feels better. And immediately her target audience can come to her profile and know exactly what she's all about without having to think about it. And it looks pretty too, because Instagram is a fickle place. So we need to have an attractive looking and cohesive grid. So really focus on documenting that strategy, perfecting your look, and then giving your grid a makeover if it needs it. Now, one of my biggest tips for 2019, and this is based on how much work I've done with people in 2018, and the thing that I keep seeing brands and businesses and entrepreneurs fail at is create a dedicated Instagram editorial calendar. Don't treat it like a kind of a let's just post something today type of platform. It can be one of the most strategic marketing channels out there that helps you build your business, and you want to make sure you're treating it like that. So use a dedicated tool for Instagram planning. This is really where, as I mentioned in the beginning, you can start to marry the art and the strategy that's necessary for success on Instagram. So just as you would create a blog editorial calendar, think in advance of what your Instagram needs to be, because your Instagram should really be a promotional channel to help support other things that you're doing and to help you reach your goals. If you're not using an editorial calendar for your Instagram marketing yet, then I highly recommend using a dedicated planning tool. This isn't something like Hootsuite. There's a lot of tools out there that have been used by a lot of people for many years that this does not fall into. So instead, you want to look into features like hashtag libraries, and I've got some tools here on the screen for you to check out. Hashtag libraries are great if you are working with an agency or have many clients. You want to be able to build up a library of hashtags to then just click something and input those hashtags based on the topic that they are a part of. A visual grid planner is key to a couple of our other points about having that curated look. Media library that you can tag and filter to find your content easily based on the topic and the images, as well as team collaboration for agencies, clients, such and such, as well as some deeper analytics that you'll get with these tools. So treat your marketing like you would a blog, and treat your Instagram as you would in any other editorial calendar, because really they should all connect and they should all be holistically connected in this way. And these tools really help do that. So to, again, piggyback on the last one with number 7, this tip is key. This is something that I've seen a lot of my own clients who I work with on digital strategy and Instagram start to do over the past year, and I've been training them on this, is to batch your Instagram planning sessions. So this is key to be efficient and also to stay strategic. I see so many people that I work with go for weeks without posting just because they didn't sit out and plan it ahead of time. Also, I see other people, they are in brands, they'll just post things that aren't really related to their main mission just because they felt the pressure to get something out that day, which I'm sure many of you have felt that as well. I know I have too, but I've gotten into a good pattern with my own marketing, and now I've trained my clients to do this process as well. So let me show you what batching specifically is. So batching is when you plan out a certain amount of content all at once, so you have that content ready to publish for weeks ahead of time. And like I mentioned before, it helps you focus because you do it all at once, you get things done more efficiently, and it helps you stay strategic and consistent. Now, the amount of batching you do is going to be up to you and your resources, or your clients' resources, or your agency's resources. I say a good rule of thumb to get started with is at least 1 week or 2 weeks out. That keeps you staying fresh with your content, and also you know what's coming. That also really forces you to think ahead about how your Instagram can help support your other goals, whether it's support a blog that you have going live. Maybe you're doing a live webinar. Maybe you're out at an event. You really want to look at how Instagram can support those holistic efforts all across your marketing. So when you sit down, you want to plan out the imagery first and foremost. So get your grid looking fantabulous, write out all the captions, and then go through and think about the calls to action that you need to create to both encourage engagement and also to drive people to anything that you're working on, like a blog or a download, such like that. So batching is a really good way just to focus your efforts and to start planning ahead. I highly recommend this in 2019 because I'm seeing a lot of brands fall short on this. So this could be a really big differentiator if you're keeping out there, keeping consistent, and just creating really good content ahead of time. We're coming down to the end here. I hope you're with me. Number 8 is take advantage of the powerful ad targeting that's available to you. And I don't just mean boosting posts on Instagram. There's so much more that you can do within the Facebook Ads Manager, because remember, they're connected. So instead of just being on the Instagram app and boosting something there and creating an audience there, which is fine, and I have a lot of clients do that, instead you want to get either with an ad consultant or start tinkering yourself to really focus on the amazing audience targeting that you can get through Facebook ads. You can even set up an audience on there for anyone who's engaged on your Instagram for the past year. I think it's up to a year. And so that way you can retarget people who are already fans of yours or who have even liked a photo of yours on Instagram. So as organic reach continues to drop and as engagement continues to diminish, using some kind of budget, it doesn't have to be huge, but it doesn't need to be small either. Find what you can spend to really reach your audience in a way that you couldn't before. I've seen this especially effective if you have some type of content marketing campaign created. For example, you have a free download that someone can get. You can run ads on Instagram to your engaged Instagram audience, as well as any other custom or saved audiences, and really reach a lot of people that way. So if you haven't tried any Facebook marketing yet or Facebook ad marketing on Instagram, I highly recommend making that a priority in Q1 of 2019. Number 9. Now, this is my little snarky caveat. You do not own your followers on Instagram. Mark Zuckerberg does. And we don't want Mark to have everything. He's got a lot of money already. So remember, with the algorithm, it can change on a whim, and it does consistently. So you want to make sure that you're always looking for opportunities to move people off the platform that follow you into your own channels. And that channel would namely be your email list. So this is extremely important to start thinking about. You can even see on my profile, I have a little call to action with the down finger that says, get my blogs. It goes right to a subscription link. That's a really light top of the funnel call to action, but there's other things you can do, like offering a free download, like a free guide, a free ebook. Maybe you even offer a workshop. Whatever your business is, you have to figure out what that content campaign would work for you. But you really need to focus on this all the time, but especially in 2019, as it's going to get harder to reach your organic audience. Anything could happen on Instagram. You don't own your followers. You don't own what they do to the platform. So you don't want to waste all that work that you've done by not bridging those people to an actual platform that you own with your email. And then you can own and nurture the relationship all you want. Now, my last tip is a little bit different than the rest. Number 10 is go beyond the cliches and the tropes. I think there's been quite a bit of discussion in the past year about the power of Instagram, both on mental health as well as in the business world. And I also feel like consumers as in humans have gotten wise to the ways of people trying to make an influence on these platforms. And they also can smell BS a mile away. And I think really in 2019, we have to go beyond the things that we've seen work for other people. We have to go beyond the systems that they've put in place that worked 2 years ago, because Instagram is just such a different place now that you can't do the same old tricks, nor should you want to. So instead, you want to start thinking about what is the deeper mission and purpose behind your business. It kind of goes to some of those questions we asked when we were talking about documenting a visual strategy, but you really have to go there in not just on Instagram, but in marketing in general. Is what is the impact you're trying to make? What is the transformation that you provide, whether it's a service, a product, whatever it is you offer as a business or your clients offer? And then how do you tell that story visually on a platform like Instagram? Now, I can't answer that question for you, but I've at least given you some tools, some content ideas, some format ideas to bring that to life. But really always go back to this idea. And these are the brands, these are the entrepreneurs, these are the business owners that I've seen make a real difference, is when they're able to get at that deeper level of what they do and then tell that story through one of the best storytelling platforms out there, which is Instagram. So that's my last tip for you. And it's, I think, one of the most important. Now, I promised you this checklist a couple times. So I have put together, I think there's 9 checklists in here, as well as 21 tools that I've tried, I've tested, I've worked on with different clients of all sizes. So you can download this at bit.ly/insta-2019. If you have any questions for me, feel free to DM me on Instagram. I'm at quinn.tempest. I also put my email here. So if you have any thoughts that came up during watching this, feel free to pop me a note. But I wish you the best of luck in 2019, and I hope these tips get you off to a good start. Thanks for tuning in.